Welcome to the Fantasy Baseball Beat, part of the Pitcher List Podcast Network. Thank you for joining us. My name is Torres. I'll be your host today. I'm joined today by my co-hosts Mike Carter and Dave Funnell. And on this episode, we're going to be talking all things Cleveland Guardians. We have a great guest with us, but before we bring him in, let me check in with my co-hosts. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Give me your best fantasy baseball related moment of the past week.
Well, Chris, I have to say, first of all, thanks for coming back to the show because you weren't on last week. You had some family stuff that was coming up and whatever, and I had to host, and it was Dave would vouch it was a disaster. I'm sure you listened as well and probably felt it was a disaster. I noticed from your silence about the pod that you must have felt that it was a bit of a disaster. So
I will say one thing. I only listened, to be honest with you, a couple minutes, and that wasn't a personal thing. Just crazy weekend, but your audio sounds much better today than it did last week. So we're off to a good start.
But, I decided the problem was that I was recording in my living room where I have vaulted ceilings because, I work at a therapeutic day school, so I make a ton of money. So I live in a house that has vaulted ceilings. And because I was in there, it impacted the sound. And I decided to have my butler just set up my bedroom area that I share with my wife to make sure that I had a spot for tonight so that my sound would be better. Everybody's good, man. Everybody's good. No. Oh, my biggest takeaway. Okay, here's the thing. I hit last weekend. It was very odd to me. I hit last weekend on a lot of those young pitching prospects that have come up. I was not expecting to get them in FAB. I don't have a lot of FAB left, as most players don't at this time of year. And I was able to get Jonah Tong in a couple places. I had gotten Nolan McLean a week before. I also got Peyton Tolley in a couple places as well. I was pretty excited about that, and it's paid some dividends. I've been able to climb a little bit in a couple of leagues where I had been kind of in also-ran status, and now in a position in a couple places to finish at least in the money, which is a nice feeling. It was a good thing for me because, I struggle. You guys have known me for a long time, and I struggle sometimes to cut bait on players that I really believe in. And I decided that just based on where I was at, that I was going to forego whips and ERAs because I can't gain there, but I can gain in other counting stats. And so I'm hopeful that by adding those three guys in a couple of places that it will help me. I did not diversify all that much. So it's kind of, all my eggs are in one proverbial basket, as they say. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, yeah, those are some players that can definitely give your team a boost. Dave, same question to you. What was your best fantasy baseball related moment of the past week?
2 words. Jeremiah Jackson.
Ooh, Jeremiah Jackson.
Yeah. And tell me. It was inadvertent too, because I'm in a rebuild in one league and I traded away expiring contracts and I just tried to pick up players who were playing. And man, Jeremiah Jackson, let me tell you, he's looked really good so far. He's getting on base, he's hitting well, and it doesn't look too different from what he did in the minors. I have no idea if this is going to stand or not, but I'm here for the ride throughout September, and then I'll just make a decision in the offseason. But so far, so good with Jeremiah Jackson.
Yeah, you got to ride that everyday PT. Yeah, you're depending on Jeremiah Jackson just like you drew it up back in March, right?
Exactly.
It's amazing. Some of these players that just pop up in September that can be major difference makers for our teams down the stretch here. Guys that we didn't even know who they were prior to the season. Mike, in one league, I'm fighting for a main event title, and not an overall, but to win the league. And in one league, I'm running out a Lenin Sosa, Andrew Benintendi, and a Brooks Baldwin mini stack on that team, which has actually been pretty decent for me. But I mean, it's amazing. Like, who would have thought beforehand those would be 3 hitters that I'm depending on every week?
They've hit great since the All-Star break, Chris. They've hit really well since the All-Star break, the White Sox. Yeah. I did want to share one thing, if I could, here that was kind of funny. I did, and Dave doing your 2-word Jeremiah Jackson thing reminded me of a text that I sent to our good friend Jack Summers today. And the 2-word text that I sent him was Jake Woodford ?
Yeah, it's a mess. Diamondbacks are a mess.
He texted me back. It's ridiculous. The best advice I ever gave regarding D-backs pen was stay away.
No, it's funny. I texted Jack on Sunday before Fab because I wanted to know, should I pick up this guy Andrew Southfrank? I mean, this is so ridiculous. That doesn't even sound like a real player. But yeah, and he was just like, there's really no, like, it's a mess, basically the same thing. So he told me to stay away, and I did, and it looks like that was the right move. But anyway, let's move away from our stuff. We're gonna bring in our guest. Very excited to speak with him. We've got with us tonight Henry Palattella, who is a writer at MLB.com. He's also a writer and editor at the website Away Back Gone, which is part of the Fansided Network and is dedicated to covering the Cleveland Guardians. Henry, we are super excited to have you back on the show. Looking forward to a great conversation. How are you doing? How is this baseball season treating you?
I'm good. It's been busy. There's been a lot going on in Cleveland and otherwise. There's always, as you guys know, every day, baseball's every day. Something happens, something new happens every day. So it's fun. It's fun to ride the wave. It's fun to watch it happen, to react, and just kind of be able to, the fun part about the stretch run is the postseason and all that. But it's also a reminder that there's not going to be 10 games on every day in a month, and I'm going to miss that as much as anything. So just kind of enjoying the last month as we go.
Let's not talk about that. Let's not. I even struggle, like days like today. We're recording on Thursday, and there's only like 5 games. I'm like, well, what is this? I have a really hard time. Just imagine when there's nothing, So let's just focus on the present moment. But let's start by talking about a few articles you had posted today at a Way Back Gone. And this was in regards to the Cleveland Guardians rotation. You had put there that in one of the articles that the Guardians appear to be set to go with a 6-man rotation the rest of the way. So in the rotation currently, you've got Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee, Slade Ciccone, Parker Messick, Logan Allen, and Joey Cantillo, who we'll talk about in a little bit. You also wrote that John Means appears to be on his way back and could be joining the club this month. How do you think the Guardians sort this out? I mean, once you get Means back, now you're working with 7 pitchers or 7 starters rather. What do you think the Guardians end up doing here?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the $1 million question right now. And this is the first time, for as long as I can remember, they've done a 6-man rotation. Terry Francona always hated it. He said that it got pitchers out of their rhythm and he didn't enjoy it, so they never did it. And now Stephen Vogt seems more amicable to doing it. I think that it's important because at this point, everyone outside of Tanner Bybee in their rotation has already hit their single season career high in innings or is eclipsing that. So it's important, and you're seeing it kind of, I mean, Gavin Williams is kind of the poster child of that. He threw however many pitches in his almost no-hitter and then looked a little flat his next game, which makes sense. Parker Messick, he is the guy that is the most intriguing to me. He's kind of the classic Guardians pitcher. Doesn't blow you away with his arsenal or velocity or whatever, but can just kind of pitch. And that's kind of what, Nolan McLean from the Mets has gotten a ton of worldly hype of how he's come in and kind of dominated. But Parker Messick has quietly kind of done the same thing through his first 3 starts. Mm-hmm. So he's a guy that, they want to give him opportunities. Joey Cantillo is a guy I've always been kind of high on. You can never have too many lefties in your rotation. And Logan Allen is kind of a guy where what he is, where Cantillo still kind of has some potential. They sent him to AAA because they want him to attack the strike zone more. And he came back and he got 7 strikeouts yesterday against the Red Sox. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Means. Like you said, if it were up to me and no one's asking me these decisions, a piggybacking role kind of seems like the best way to ease him into it. They want to try and get him up to 75, 80 pitches in his rehab start tonight. But, a major league mound is different than a minor league mound. The adrenaline, all of that, especially if they're still in the postseason race. So in my mind, kind of the best thing to do is ease him in a way where, you can kind of pick a spot with him as opposed to a starter. Things can get off the rails quickly. You can come in, give him a clean inning, maybe give him a lead, or having a game that's a little already decided so he can kind of ease his way in. They have, it's almost too many starting pitchers, which is, kind of a champagne problem. in baseball today, but still, it'll be interesting to see what they do. No one kind of really knows, but they're gonna have to do something because they just have too many guys.
Do you think there's any chance? I mean, you mentioned they're still in the postseason race, which is pretty crazy when you look at this team. It doesn't seem like a postseason team, but they are technically in it. If they were to fall out of it, I was looking at Gavin Williams and the fact that he's almost doubled his innings pitched this year compared to last. Do you think there's any chance that they just say, you know what, let's just shut him down and we'll just go with the other starters to finish out the year?
I don't know if they would shut him down, but definitely I think the way the Cubs are managing Cade Horton right now would probably be something similar to that. Maybe like 3 or 4 innings max to still get him out there and still, I think now after what happened with Steven Strasburg many moons ago with getting shut down, teams and players are a little more hesitant, to do that. I think if they fall out, that's for sure something that's considered and probably something that's done, whether it's said explicitly, like we're doing this, or they show it with their actions and then don't talk about it or kind of meander their way through it. But I think that even maybe if they are in it, John Means is a good way to, send Gavin Williams out there for 3 innings, 4 innings, and then bring Means in. Oh, we got to give him work. We got to get him in. We want to see what we have, while kind of also doing less in terms of what Gavin Williams or Logan Allen or Slade Ciccone are doing in terms of their workload as well.
Right. So it's just something I think for listeners out there to kind of think about, especially if you're depending on a Gavin Williams heading into these final few weeks. Just pay close attention for all of these pitchers, really, in terms of how the schedule lines up here, because things could change and you don't want to get stuck, shortened start or potentially taking a 0 right now is obviously not the time for that. All right, and just to clarify, with John Means, do you think is he making his next start after today in the big leagues, you think?
I think there probably is one more minor league stint. That seems to be what the team has kind of vocalized. I think, maybe if he goes out and looks great tonight, that changes things. But in my mind, it was probably always one more start next week. And then they have the home. That's when they have the home series against the Tigers after that, or against the White Sox that next weekend. One of those games, ease him in, and then he'll probably be able to make 3-ish starts. I guess it depends on how they use him. Probably 3 or 4 appearances, maybe not indirectly starts, which is, in a perfect world, not as much as they would want to be able to have him be the one, to make a decision about him for next year with his team option. But that might just be the situation they're in now. And fantasy-wise, I think if you're going to look at one of them, look at Messick. They want him. He's not on an innings limit, even if the Guardians pitchers aren't explicitly on one. Like they want to see what they have with him. And he is a guy I picked up, and he helped me on my postseason push get in on his 2 starts. I think that the 6-man rotation, you might only get 1 start a week from him as opposed to 2. But he is a guy that all of the concerns about all the other Guardians pitchers aren't really there with him outside of inexperience. And there are definitely worse options to roll the dice on at this point in the season.
Right. Let's talk about Tanner Bybee for a moment here. First, let me check in. Mike, Dave, did you get any Tanner Bybee this season? Because I didn't have any, and I didn't realize how disappointing his numbers have been. He's got a 4.77 ERA, a 1.31 WHIP so far this year. And I didn't even realize how, he just wasn't even on my board during draft season. I didn't realize how high he was going. In the main event, his ADP was 77.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a top 100 pick. Most people were picking him, potentially SP1, definitely in that SP2 range. Did you guys get any of him and any thoughts on his season so far?
I had him in a keeper league, so I had him throughout the last couple of years. But watching him this year, he looked like almost like a different pitcher in the sense that he was just giving up so much hard contact, and the walks are up, the Ks are down, and his fastball is just not fooling anyone. So I ended up trading him just because I didn't want any part of him, unfortunately. But I don't understand. I don't know if maybe we've been fooled these last couple years, or if there's something different about him this year that maybe we're just not seeing.
Yeah, the strikeout stuff is way down this year. Henry, any any thoughts quickly on Tanner Bybee in terms of his struggles this year? Any insight into them?
Yeah, I think he's been unlucky. His expected ERA is almost a point lower than his actual ERA. But like Dave said, the hard contact is really alarming. He's never going to be a guy that is a totally swing and miss pitcher. Like, he's always going to generate some contact. But, you know, he's been lapped at this point by Gavin Williams to be the ace. And it's concerning for sure. I know that the team is concerned. You know, when you ink a guy to a contract, even if it was $40 million, that for the Guardians, that should be $400 million. Like, that is an investment. That's the way this team operates. And to get little to no return on that, you know, advanced stats are great. It says something about his season, but at the end of the day, advanced stats don't put runs or take runs off the scoreboard. You know, the eye test is the eye test for a reason. And, you know, he has the runway to do it because he has that extension, but there's definitely some concern there. The good news is he has the makeup where he wants the ball. He wants to do better. So he's not going to shy away from it. But this season has been an objective disaster by every metric.
Yeah. It's going to be super interesting to see where he goes in drafts next season. All right, Henry, you told us about one player who's on the return in John Means. I want to ask about another one, and Lane Thomas. It looks like he is on the way back, could be back in about a week. Can you give us an update on Lane Thomas, and do you expect him to be an everyday player when he comes back?
Yeah. So he DH'd at AA Akron on Tuesday. He played 5 innings of the center field on Wednesday. He had a day off on Thursday, and they're going to reassess kind of where they want him at. I'd imagine they'll probably activate him on the next homestand, but it'll be interesting, the everyday player part, because he's a free agent after the season. Another player this season has been, you know, as snake bitten as possible for him. And so the Guardians, they called up George Valera. They still have Nolan Jones. They're still, for whatever reason, putting Angel Martinez in the outfield. So they have guys that they have an investment in that they can use as outfielders. Whereas Thomas, you know, they want to see what they have with him, but also, like, they don't have the same kind of long-term commitment to him they do other people. And this could be another thing where they're still in the postseason hunt somehow. Again, this is incredible. They have minus 54 run differential, but are 3 games out of the postseason, where, you know, they have the balancing act of developing team for the next year while also finding success. And I imagine he's an everyday player when he gets back, because he's theoretically the best outfielder. But, you know, it is a lot can happen between when he gets back or now and when he gets back. A lot cannot happen. It's another good problem to have, but it's so tough to get a read that I think we just kind of have to see where they're at and what they're doing when they activate him and what they do.
Yeah. Could be a fantasy relevant guy in these past few weeks if he is playing every day, can provide some speed, but it's also been a really tough year for him, even when he's been on the field. And maybe that is partially due to the injuries, but we will be keeping an eye on that. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back continuing our conversation with Henry. All right, Henry, let's talk about some of the Guardians' most high-profile prospects. And the two that come to mind are Travis Bazzana and Chase DeLauder, who both have had kind of tumultuous years from what I've seen. Can you give us your thoughts on their respective seasons, and what's your prediction for when we see them in the big leagues?
Yeah, I think Bazzana's season, even though he's struggled with injuries and hasn't hit as well since he got called up to AAA, I think it's kind of what the Guardians wanted. His on-base percentage is still .360, even though he's batting .198 AAA. Like, he's still, you know, I had someone in the organization tell me that every prospect that they have is just the same version of another one. You know, there really isn't someone like that is a pure power hitter or a pure like Chandler Simpson type. They're all a variation of Chase DeLauder or Travis Bazzana, whether it's in the minor leagues or in the major leagues. That is their makeup. That's what they want. And he's showing that. And I don't think he makes it in the majors this year, but I think he's probably, if not on the opening day roster next year, one of those ones where he's called up like April 22nd or whatever. You know, it seems like it's a matter of if, not when. DeLauder, I would say his season is incomplete. he's the guy that has the power that they need in the outfield. Like right field has been a black hole for them. It's easy to see how he could impact this team. He was tracking to get called up before he got hurt the most recent time. But I think there's a fear of calling him up and him immediately getting hurt. And so you're burning his service time. You're paying him major league money, and he's sitting on the bench because he's hurt when he could do that in AAA. You know, that's whether that's fair or not to him. That is a fear that has generated because of how his season has gone, or how his career has gone, and this season. But they will find any excuse to call him up because of what he can bring. And I think if somehow he's able to stay healthy in spring training for the first time in his career, he could be on this team, you know, opening day next year, so long as, you know, everyone expected Andres Jimenez to be at second base on this team next year, and he's a Blue Jay. So you can never really predict what's happening, but so long as they stay the course fundamentally, you know, he's kind of a guy that I think they want to pencil him in the outfield, in right field, opening day next year.
Okay. I can say with the utmost confidence that my friend here, Dave Funnel, will never, ever draft Chase DeLauder. Like, Chase DeLauder would need to be healthy for 5 consecutive years for Dave to even think about drafting him. And just a little context, Henry. So he is, my friend Dave here is the most risk-averse fantasy player you'll ever meet. Anybody who's ever had an injury is basically off of his board. He worries about every little thing. So Dave, can I get confirmation of that you will never have Chase DeLauder on your teams?
If I could share my screen, you would see a list. It says DeLauder, and it has every injury he's suffered over the last 3 years. So that, I mean, you know me well.
It's like a fetish for you to find all of these injuries. I swear. All right, so DeLauder is someone. So Henry, you mentioned he, you know, assuming he's healthy, he could be the starting right fielder for the Guardians next season. So that's important to know for, you know, sick and deranged people like myself who are drafting 2026 baseball teams in October and November.
You will be for sure.
Oh no, I will be. That's what I'm saying. So
yeah,
Henry, just so you know how sick I am. I draft.
Be careful what you say next.
Well, I'm going to leave some things out, but I'll tell him about my draft champions leagues that I do in October, or actually November, to be fair. These are 50-round drafts, 15-team leagues that go 50 rounds. So you're drafting 750 players in November before free agency, before we know anything. So
psychotic.
What's that?
It's psychotic in a good way, but that is like you gotta really. That's insane.
He's psychotic, all right.
Yes. So Chase DeLauder is a name to know in that because he might go super late and news comes out later, you know, in the winter that, oh, he's tracking to be the everyday right fielder, and you get him at pick 500 or whatever, and you make a nice profit on that. Is there anybody else, Henry, that comes to mind that you think for someone like me that would be a good name to know, that is someone like completely under the radar in the Guardian system that you know, that could be a fantasy contributor next season?
Yeah, I don't know how well known he is, but Cooper Ingle he's their top catching prospect. I think he's probably on the fringes. I haven't checked since the newest reorganization, but on the fringes of like top 30 lists. You know, Austin Hedges is their backup catcher. Great vibes guy. Could forever live on a 1-year contract if he wanted. But I think that would probably be something that they're looking to reassess, especially since Bo Naylor has, you know, shown flashes but not been the consistent kind of presence they wanted. There's a legitimate shot for him to get at-bats next year as the backup catcher, which when you're thinking about that in terms of fantasy steals, kind of what you want to do, I think that is a good one to target. P.D. Halpin is also, he's on the 40-man roster. He's not on any top 30 lists, but he's a guy that, you know, they added him to the 40-man roster for a reason. He hasn't appeared in a game yet, but, you know, gets on base well at AAA Columbus, like to be a guy. And one other one, he's not necessarily a prospect at this point, but and maybe this is just my blind spot. I'm always going to be, but there's going to be a Will Brennan breakout next year.
Oh no!
It's coming. No, I'm in.
He's missed so much this year because of injury. he stunk when he was on the field, but he has incredible contact skills. Came in as a rookie and got hits in the ALDS. Like, he plays great outfield. Like, he is a player that I've always rooted for personally. And to see him go down this year, that stung. But he's a guy that he's not going to be as high on list. He wasn't high on list before, but he's coming off an injury. There's going to be uncertainty. Like, if you have the opportunity to stash him, in my professional opinion, I think that's a good thing to do. But, it's going to happen at some point, or I'm just going to be wrong.
Wow. Will Brennan, leave the light on. Yeah. What's up, Mike?
Chris, may I make a wager with you?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna bet you $5 that Will Brennan hits for a higher batting average than your buddy O'Neal Cruz next year.
Oh, why would I take that bet? Of course he is.
No, because you think O'Neal Cruz is going to hit 275 next year.
No, I never drafted O'Neal Cruz expecting batting average. It's the other things he provides. The power speed combo.
He stinks.
All right. I have to admit defeat on that one. You, in the end, I think I took a victory lap after the first month, and now in September, I have to just, hang my head in shame because you were right about O'Neal Cruz. He's been a bust. I mean, Chris, not a bust. He's not a bust.
Not a bust. No, not at all. Lucas Berry salutes you on that as well, by the way.
All right. Good to know. Lucas, miss him. Hopefully we can have him on soon. All right. Henry, I wanted to check in on Emmanuel Clase. Any updates on that whole situation? And I'm curious, like, what was your reaction even when that, the whole gambling thing came out and him being suspended? So yeah, what's up with Clase?
Yeah, I mean, that is, there are transactions and things that happen that, surprise me a little bit in baseball, things you don't see coming. But that was the first time for as long as I can remember where, like, a Jeff Passan tweet, like, made me speechless, because that's not, and, maybe it was less surprising because of Luis Ortiz as well, but that whole situation is just so surprising. And they announced that his suspension is, it's kind of indefinite, until further notice. Like, it's very ominous. It is not the MLB and Players Association agreed to all this. He's getting paid. He and Ortiz are getting paid, but it's just, nothing about it says, like, boy, everyone's expecting him to come back or excited to have him come back. The team cleaned out his locker. Rightfully so. No one wants to talk about it because why would you? Like, if you're a player's perspective, these are guys that let you down, that Ortiz, whatever, fourth starter, like, they've survived without him. But Clase has been, everyone thought Kate Smith was a closer in waiting. I did. And he has not done great in his experience as a closer since Clase got suspended. It's one of those ones where, and it impacts the team next year too. He was on this great team-friendly contract that they were either going to take advantage of or fleece the Padres or Dodgers, like, win a trade. They're going to use him to objectively win a trade. And instead they're stuck picking up the pieces and, like, well, I guess Nick Enright, let's do it, man. Like, we got to, run with you guys. And I think that is, the team is disappointed. Everyone's disappointed. But we'll see what happens. We'll see where it goes. But it doesn't seem like anything is going to happen anytime soon in terms of any kind of update. Like, it just seems like it's going to go on forever. But it just seems like the longer and longer that goes on, the less of a chance there is that they're pitching for the Guardians again.
What's your give me a percentage chance that Kate Smith is the closer for the Guardians opening day next year?
I think that is the most interesting conversation around the Guardians right now. I want to say probably 70%, and I think the 30% that it wouldn't be him is because they get someone else. I was trying to think about this when I was thinking today, like, what closers in baseball do you think are objectively better than him? I think the two guys with the Padres are better than him. Edwin Diaz, Johan Duran. There are a lot of guys that, like Devin Williams, theoretically should be. Ryan Helsley even theoretically should be. Luke Weaver, like, maybe, sure. Josh Hader, yes, but he's hurt. But, like, the Rangers would kill to have him as their closer. They were using Luke Jackson to close games. Like, the Mariners,
let's not talk about that.
It's kind of a toss-up. It is. there is and fantasy perspective too. Anyone that does it, there are closers that are great, and then it's just kind of throwing darts at the dartboard. Like I had Robert Garcia on my dynasty team at one point this year, which is not at all what I was expecting exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a, yes, he hasn't done well as the closer, but when you look around baseball, are there other options where you're like, boy, it just reminds me as someone who watches and writes about the Guardians every day and, fans, like how spoiled we were with Class A, because he had blow-ups in the postseason, but, for the most part, he made the ninth inning a cakewalk, and most teams aren't afforded that luxury.
Mm-hmm. Mike, assuming that the Guardians don't bring any capital C closer in this offseason, and we assume it's Cade Smith at the beginning of next year, fill in the blank. Cade Smith is a top blank closer next season.
I think he's a top 12 closer if he's available. And I say that, and I'm interested in Henry's take on this too. You look at his stat cast and it's blood red everywhere where you like to see it be blood red. The guy's got incredible stuff. But Henry, here's the thing that I see that is troubling to me. I feel like he really needs a second pitch. That he throws the four-seamer about 72% of the time so far this year. The splitter is not what I would consider to be a very good one, and the sweeper he throws only about 88% of the time. And I talked about this with Rick Graham offline, Chris and Dave, just about Cade Smith and what he's seen with it. I think the guy's tired. I mean, he's been in the big leagues for 2 seasons. He's thrown 137 games in 2 seasons for the Guardians. So he's essentially pitching almost every other day. When you really think about the sheer numbers of it. And so they have used that back end of the bullpen. Him and Gaddis. Sobrowski has been outstanding for them as well. Kind of a diamond in the rough lefty. There's a lot of predisposition against using lefties as closers. I think Smith would be a top 12 guy. He's got a 31.9% strikeout rate, 32.5% whiff percentage, 3.9% barrel rate. I mean, there has been some bad luck there. There's no doubt about that. But he's also had 2 outings in his last 5 that were complete, implosions. 3 runs here, 4 runs there. It takes a lot to be able to do that job. As Henry was saying before, replacing a guy like Class A, who has been an ideal closer for a number of years, gets the job done, regardless of what happens in the playoffs. It's hard to step up into that role. And there are some guys that are really good at it, and there are other guys that really struggle with it. Based on stuff, he's got the stuff to be able to do it. But I really feel like he needs to find that second pitch. And I feel like it's more, and Henry, I'm interested in your opinion on that. I feel like it's more the sweeper than it would be the splitter. That's something that if he was really going to look for a second pitch that was a really good out pitch, it would be that, because guys are really clearly sitting on the fastball right now.
Yeah, I would agree. It's kind of the same thing that Class A ran into, where fastball sweeper dominant. It's so tough because if you're off a little bit or you're not locating, they're on the same plane. It's breaking, yes, but it's breaking side to side, not up and down. And I think, which is what makes a guy, when he's good, like Devin Williams, so good. I mean, his pitch kind of goes, the airbender kind of goes everywhere, but down is the way to do it, as opposed to if the fastball is not, if it's a tick off or a tick in the wrong spot, you're looking middle of the plate because you don't have to worry about it kind of, that looping, downward motion. And I think that's where theoretically the splitter helps with that. And when he's on, it's great. But when it's not, like you said, his sweeper's been getting hit really hard. It's like a 419 slugging off of it, which is incredible. And I know there was concerns, rightfully so, within the team of like how much they used their bullpen last year, both in the regular season and then the postseason. They were getting like 3 innings to start out. Alex Cobb got hurt every time he went out there, so they had to fill these innings, which is why, they signed Jacob Junis, like they signed Paul Sewald, which abject disaster. Like they made moves to try and put themselves in a better position. Yet here we are in September, and it's not Class A coming out, but like Cade Smith, Eric Sobrowski, got minor league Rule 5 pick. Like what a win for them! Just great pick. Nick Enright, who I mentioned before, another guy they're high on. But it is, it always seemed coming into this year that it was going to be a house of cards at some point with Smith and his usage. And I think we're kind of seeing it right now, but it's not like they have another option to go to. So it's going to be, there are going to be games where he looks great, but it seems like there are going to be ones like he had in Boston his last outing where it's just not working for him.
Really good stuff there, guys. But we're up against it. We're gonna get you out of here, Henry. Henry, we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. This was great as expected. If you can tell our listeners where they can find your work, where they can find you on social media, plug whatever you got going on.
Yeah. So I'm the site expert at A Way Back Gone, like Chris said. So you can find me. Me and all the staff's work there, and then MLB.com, assist with game coverage, Guardians, visiting teams, kind of everything in terms of baseball at Progressive Field, I'm there for. So, and then on social media, all of my ads are at Hella Palattella because I think it's a fun pun. It's HELLAPALATTELLA. So, always excited to be on. I was excited to talk with you guys, and I hope you have a great rest of the season, and excited to see what you guys do in the off season too, and what sleeper pick you draft in the 512th pick that wins you the league.
Very good. All right. Good stuff. Well, thanks again, Henry. We'll talk soon, and we are going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with our fantasy follow-up. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate
Thanks a lot.
Have a good night.
Henry, can I ask you a question before you go? And this will not be in the podcast. This is totally off the record.
Yeah.
Is it true that Austin Hedges has a button on his pitch com that says "fuck yeah"?
Yeah.
I coach. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, he's just a crazy vibes. Like he wears this like Indians hitting department crop top. Like he is, he's chugging Red Bull. Like he's just a great vibes guy. Like he recognizes the limitations he has on the field, but what he brings to that clubhouse, and Stephen Vogt, former catcher, kind of really appreciates it, which is why he has a lifetime contract there. But that's one of like those small things he does that just like, it does more than I think people realize in terms of like, it's a 162 game season, man. There's a lot of baseball to be played. You got to liven it up some way.
I love that because
cool.
I coach baseball at the local high school here. I coach the freshman team, and I was telling the guys about that, and they didn't believe the coaches, and they didn't believe me. And I said, "Well, we have the guy from the Guardians who's coming on this week, and I'm going to ask him directly off the record about that because I'm almost positive it's true." Because I told our varsity catcher, I was like, "You need to put something like that on there because he's got the pitch comment. I can actually talk to him in the receiver." And so I'm just like, I talk shit to him all the time. It's great. It's super funny.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, it's again one of those things like, you made a good pitch. Like, why not have Austin Hedges in your ear saying "fuck yeah" when you do it? Like, that's
I love it.
Like, why not, right?
That's awesome.
I love it. Thank you for verifying that for me. I will not reveal my source on that, but I was wondering. I wanted to ask you that off the record.
Of course.
All righty.
Cool.
You guys ready? All right.
Yes,
Take
sounds
care.
good. Thanks, Henry.
Thank
you guys.
Have a good night. Thanks for coming on.
Of course, you as well.
Sorry, guys. I had to ask him that. I didn't know we would have another opportunity.
I like
that's
it.
Funny. That's funny.
He's a good guy.
Guys. Yeah, really nice guy. Just really, really nice. All right, let's do it. Fantasy follow-up. All right, we are back for our fantasy follow-up segment. Thank you again to Henry for joining us for the interview. For a follow-up, we are going to be continuing our Guardians conversation, and I thought we could kind of start thinking about, and I know it's crazy, but let's start thinking about next year. And the question I want to pose to you guys is, which Guardians player are you most interested in at this point for next season's drafts? And Dave, I'm going to start with you.
All right. For me, it's someone that he mentioned that he's very intrigued by, and it's Parker Messick. I love the profile, but I also love hearing that I think it was him that he said was the prototypical Guardians pitcher. He's what they want. He's got a 70 grade changeup, and he had a 23.1 CSW in AAA. That's pretty impressive. Keith Law mentioned that he has excellent deception and moves quickly through his delivery, which seems to keep hitters off balance. So that's something that I really like to see. I like what he's done so far. And even though he struggled in Boston in his third appearance, I still think you can get some value out of him for this year. And I do think that going into next year, he'll have a rotation spot. So he's someone that I really like right now, and I'd be buying in Dynasty if I could.
All right. Parker Messick for Dave. Mike, who do you got? Who are you most interested in at this point for 2026? Which Guardians player?
So, Chris, it might sound like a bit of a homer pick because you and I met this guy last year down in Arizona at first pitch, and that's Kyle Manzardo.
We did?
We did.
Kyle. What do you mean?
We did. Oh, maybe you weren't there. It might have been when your mouth was taped shut. I'm sorry.
No, yes, that's what I do, man. I miss all the good stuff.
Pounding the garlic.
Yeah.
No, no.
Did you really meet him, or you saw him play?
Yeah, he came. No, he came. He came to one of our seminars. He actually came in and was interviewed and talked for a little while.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Totally
that really nice
okay.
guy. Anyway, I did not realize, and I've been playing fantasy baseball. My God, how many years? He has 24 home runs, and he's been in a platoon role all season. Carlos Santana, the first baseman, not the legendary guitar player, was released recently, and Manzardo has been the beneficiary of getting those extra at-bats. And what I like from what I've seen so far has been that he's had some incremental growth this year in a couple of areas that we look at. So his walk rate has gone up from 5.8% to 9.9%, sweet spot percentage from 31 to 38, barrel upticked a little bit from 9 to 12. He pulls the ball in the air 24% of the time, which is way higher than average, which is about 16.5%. His K rate went down a tick, but he's got to really work on that. He's about a 26% K rate. It would be nice to have that dip down a little bit further. But the tools are really there, and I think the playing time is there to follow. He's batting cleanup on a team that really, really needs offense. And it really seems to me like he's the type of guy that next year, without a platoon partner, could really walk easily into 30 home runs. I mean, he's got 447 plate appearances, and he's got 24 home runs already. Chris, you noted in the notes as well, and I thought this was a really great point. His BABIP is really down as well, so there's a possibility that there might be some juice in the average there. And he's hitting 231 right now, but, if he could hit 250 and hit 30 home runs, that's a really productive corner infield bat for you. And I think he's flying a little bit under the radar right now in terms of people looking at it. I honestly did not have any idea that he had 24 home runs until I started looking and getting prepared for this show.
Yeah, it's definitely been a step forward for Manzardo this year. And the fact that now, there's no platoon, it looks like they're, part of the reason they let Santana go was to give him that run. So we'll see. I mean, if there's indications that he's just going to be the everyday first baseman for the Guardians, definitely, I think a power source that you're going to be able to get in the middle rounds that could be pretty valuable next season. For me, I think it's going to be Joey Cantillo. I was drafting, I talked about drafting DCs in October, November. I actually drafted Cantillo last November in my first DC because I was really intrigued by the skills he showed when he came up last season. And it's been a little bit of an up and down year for him. The whip is there's still too many walks is really the problem with Cantillo. But I think the swing and miss that we see from him is, I think, really encouraging. And if, we see it sometimes with these pitchers that if they have the swing and miss stuff, we can see a step forward in terms of their ability to, to have better command. And if they can just harness that, then you've got an ace level pitcher. I don't know if Joey Cantillo is going to be ever an ace, but there's enough there. And I think he's going to fly enough under the radar next season because the surface numbers don't look great this year, right? I mean, the whip is up at 1.40. The ERA, little, it's better at 3.73. But yeah, he's got a Sierra of 3.91, indicating that he's a viable starting pitcher in this league. One stat that really sticks out to me is his in-zone contact. It's at 74.9%. Now that is elite. We're talking about that's in territory of like some of the aces of this game. He's got a 31.3% CSW on the season. So there's enough there. Like the strikeout stuff is there. We know that. And I think that alone, and the fact that I think the Guardians are just going to let him go next season, is enough to be interested in what I think is going to be a pretty reasonable price in drafts next season. One thing before we transition away and into our mental health minute, I just wanted to note on Jose Ramirez, and this is for you, Dave. I didn't get a chance to ask about Jose Ramirez with Henry. We unfortunately ran out of time. But I know you had texted me earlier this week, and you said one question that you wanted to be asked was about Ramirez, saying that he is only batting, I think, 219 over the past month. And you wanted to know, is there anything wrong with Jose Ramirez? He's 33 years old, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. So, I called you out in the text chat, like, here we go with Davey Downer again. 3 weeks ago, if you remember, on our podcast, we talked about players that we would take in the top 5 of drafts next year. And I was actually the one who said, I don't know if Jose Ramirez is quite a top 5 pick for me next year. And you were saying, you were advocating for him as an early first round player. So how do we get from top 5 player to, oh my God, he's batting 219, he might be washed? How does this what are we gonna do with you?
I listened to you. I listened to you saying he wouldn't be a top 5, and I really reflected on it. I am someone who can reflect on the opinions of others. No, I just wanted to know if maybe, I know he's been battling injuries this year. He had an ankle and a foot and forearm. I don't know. I mean, it's carried over into September. He's still batting well below the Mendoza line. It's something to note that it was his lowest monthly batting average since the beginning of 2023, but he's also known to be a slow starter. And then before that, his lowest was 2019.
There's always something to note with you. There's always something.
I got notes. I got notes up here. I got notes everywhere.
The problem is that he hasn't had a day off since 2018. Well, that's the problem. I mean, the guy just play. They kill these guys in Cleveland. They just keep playing them.
Listen, guys, there's no problem. Pull up Jose Ramirez's stats over the last 30 days.
All good.
Yes, it looks ugly. He has a 185 average, a 576 OPS. But you know what the problem is? The guy has a 187 batting average on balls in play. That's the problem. He's just been, maybe he is slowing down a little bit. I'm not going to say it's all just being unlucky. But if that BABIP was, that normal around 300, we're probably seeing the same Jose Ramirez. He's stolen 4 bases over the past 30 days. That's about in line with what we could expect. So don't worry. Dave, I need you to just chill. I know you just started school. I know, there's a lot going on and you're already in this even more of this kind of negative mindset. But I'm here to bring you back to earth. It's all good, baby. All right.
All right.
Dave was not ready to start school this week. I'm sorry. He just wasn't ready.
I could tell. All right. Let's we're going to leave the baseball talk there. I don't know. Let's not take another break because, I'm going to be honest with you. I probably shouldn't say this.
Oh boy!
But one of the things.
The time.
I don't know how many people are still listening. So
note the time.
For when I'm editing.
Right. Listening back to the podcast, we have so many ads. Like when there's an ad break, it feels like the ads go on forever, and it can be too much. So I just feel like, you know what? We've already taken 2 breaks. We're going straight, baby. We're going straight. We're going to transition to our next segment. And we're going to be doing our mental health minute. So this is where we talk about ways that we are taking care of ourselves, taking care of our overall mental and or physical health. So I'm going to start with Dave. You had a topic that you wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, for me, it was the topic about how sports can just bring people together. The other day I was at the gym and in the locker room or whatever, and we have a TV there, and there was an older gentleman just watching a Blue Jays game, and I just decided, hey, let's talk about the Jays. So I just asked him a random question, and then 10 minutes later, we were getting into the details of the Jays lineup once Anthony Santander comes back, and it was pretty interesting, and it just brought about the fact that sports is something that we all enjoy, and it's pretty crazy how you can. It's something that brings you together with other people that maybe you probably have nothing else in common with, or that you probably wouldn't have interacted with, either because you're different in so many ways, or different age groups, or even for the three of us, we live so far away from each other, but here we are week after week talking about baseball. And I think it's just pretty cool. And it's great that, we have that interest together, and you can get to know some people. And that's a great way to start to get to know someone. So for me, it was a great experience, actually, just to talk about baseball.
Isn't that the coolest feeling when you are talking to somebody and then somehow like sports comes up and there's like that moment where you both realize that like that person knows like what you're talking about, like you're on the same level in terms of like just being a fan or like your knowledge about baseball or whatever. Like that's such a cool moment. You're like, oh, this is a way for us to connect, and just to really, like, from what it sounds like with what happened with you, like you sparked up this conversation, and like it got pretty in depth. Like you're talking about, Anthony Santander. I forgot he even played. But yeah, so it just sports, I mean, that really is like one of the biggest reasons that people enjoy sports is just the connection that it provides. And honestly, for me, like I used to be like a super fan, man. Like I used to live and die with the Yankees, whether they won or lost. And I mean, for me right now, like I don't, and maybe fantasy has ruined it a little bit for me, but like I don't have that same. Of course, I want the Yankees to win. I'm a fan, but like it's not that same passion, right? But like really, the main thing for me with sports, I mean, part of it I like analyzing it, right? But the other part is just the relationships that it's helped me develop, and what it can continue to, the relationships that I can continue to make based on my interest in it. Like that's really the biggest benefit, of being so invested in this. So Mike, any thoughts on that idea or any recent experiences similar to Dave's?
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said, Dave, even though you were probably standing next to an 80-year-old guy who was totally naked in front of a TV. Which no, I think you guys are right on target with that. I had an experience last night that was kind of interesting. I was interviewing you guys know I tutor on Sundays, and I was interviewing a new tutoring client, and he came with his parents, and we were talking and examining whether we would be a good fit together or not. And Dad and I realized that we were essentially from the same neighborhood and had played baseball against each other when we were children. I'm 52 years old. He's the same age as me. And we were talking about people that we knew in common from when we were 13, 14 years old. And it was just like a cloud splitting moment for me, right? Just really interesting, not expecting to have that happen. And you talk about how sports bring people together. We know the same people in common. I'm in line now to be able to help his son become a really good college student and work through some of the things that he has issues with to become a really good student. And it's just a really interesting dynamic about how the sports, do bring us closer together. I mean, baseball has been at the foundation of my life for the better part of 45 years, I would say. And it doesn't ever change. It's drawn me to people like you guys to be able to be together with you and do this show, but then also be friends. I mean, even if we didn't do this show together anymore, if this was the last show we ever did, which it won't be, but if we had that situation,
Mike, I'm going to break some.
Oh, am I out? Am I out again?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I said I was going to tell you this is the last show. See you later. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I'd still want to talk to you guys. You know what I mean? Like, I still want to be friends with you guys. I'd still want to talk to you guys about baseball and stuff like that. Except when you're crazy about the Mets and the Yankees, and then I need to bow out a little bit. But other than that, no, I've been really lucky. Sports have led me to a lot of really cool things that I probably wouldn't have gotten to otherwise, and I really appreciate that about baseball and sports. I really appreciate that about you guys. I think we have a friendship that transcends baseball, but also baseball is sort of the bedrock of what we do, right? So I'm really happy to be able to be part of that and lucky to be part of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. And yeah, just to kind of tie that together, and we've brought this up on previous mental health minutes, is just really, for anybody listening, just to really take a look at the connection in your life. I think that's just so important. When I work with clients, when I work with my counseling clients, it's usually one of the first things that I'm looking at is, where is this person's sense of connection? And often when people are really struggling, there's usually some kind of gap there. Maybe they had connections that for whatever reason are no longer there, or maybe they just never had, connections at all, or it's been a struggle for them their entire life. So that is so much of the focus of I think of being of the work that I do, and I think of just being well, is to have this sense of connection to other people. We are social animals. That's just the way we are wired. So we need that in our lives. Some of us more than others, but we all need it to a certain extent. So anybody out there who's just maybe going through it right now, really lean into that. Lean into who are your connections, and if they're old ones that you need to rekindle, or new ones that you need to really work on developing. Make that a focus. We're gonna leave it there for today. We'll be back next week. If you like the show, please rate and review. We would appreciate it. But for Dave Funnel, for Mike Carter, I'm Chris Torres. Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Baseball Beat.